football fans, and welcome to the Onside Kick, the weekly football podcast where we talk about all the best news in the world of football. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I used to say Dave Oster, but he's not here today. I'm joined by Mark Weber.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And Mark, Dave, taking a second consecutive week off. Work's being a little bit too crazy for him.
Yeah, he's having a rough time. He's missing trains, not being let out of the building.
Not being let out of the building, still in the office. But we got a full, not just football, a Johnny Football podcast today, as we're going to be talking about Johnny Football, the Cleveland Browns, a little bit Skip Bayless comments.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Johnny Football, then a little Johnny Football, and after that we might talk about some Johnny Football.
And then we're going to end with some college football with Ty Isaac leaving USC.
Who also left college football?
Johnny Football. And that's where we're going to start. Johnny Manziel. He got drafted, obviously. We did a recap last week. And one of the more interesting things, and it came out this week, what he said in a text message to the Browns. Hurry up and draft me, and the best part, because I want to wreck this league together. Really? The Browns wreck this league?
Well, when I first heard this story, I kind of was expecting a few other teams to also come out and be like, oh yeah, he texted that to us too. Yeah. It was a mass text. He sent it to everybody. But yeah, Cleveland, I don't know about wrecking anything. But except for their, the hopes and dreams of all their fans. But yeah, I kind of look at this and I'm like, well, yeah, who else did A, Johnny have a relationship with already established? And B, who else was going to draft him? Were the Minnesota Vikings going to trade up and grab him?
Well, that was the one team where you knew the Vikings were not going to draft Manziel because Coach Zimmer hated Manziel.
Yeah.
Thought he was a punk.
And it was just a situation where, I don't know why anyone expected him to go to Dallas in the first place. But after Dallas passes up on him, it's like Johnny's sitting there going, so who's going to draft me? I'm not going to the second round. I'm not playing that game. Johnny Football doesn't play that game. So, yeah, he didn't want to have a Geno Smith moment going on. So he was probably panicking, being like, I need somebody to draft me right now.
Well, and one of the things that everyone's saying is the text was received by Cleveland's quarterback coach, Dowell Loggins, who was he used to be the offensive coordinator with the Titans. Whisenhunt comes in. Obviously, he doesn't have that job anymore. Quarterback coach with the Browns. And the big thing is Loggins is the guy that had the relationship with Manziel. And the first thing I think of, owner Jimmy Haslam, head coach Mike Pettin. How much did these guys want Johnny Manziel? Because Jimmy Haslam has come out and said that he told Manziel, start acting like a backup, which to me is like, whoa, wait a second. I know you have a guy in Brian Hoyer who you think is going to be the starter, but A, is he going to make it an entire season? And 2, is he Johnny Football?
Well, it's strange because, I don't even know. Do they want Hoyer to be the starter? Is that already kind of established?
The way Haslam said it in a meeting with, I think it was season ticket holders, was right now Hoyer he said, Hoyer's our starter. If Manziel beats him out in the offseason, great. But Hoyer's our starter right now.
And that's the thing. It's a weird thing to say, act like a backup. In Chicago, my favorite team, the Chicago Bears, if we drafted Johnny Football, yeah, Trestman's going to say, act like a backup.
Because you are a backup.
You are a backup to Jay Cutler. If same thing happens, the Denver Broncos, the, Seattle Seahawks even, act like a backup. But when he goes to somewhere that doesn't have an actual established quarterback. Let me put it this way.
A.J. McCarron gets drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. Andy Dalton's not going to get dethroned yet.
Yeah, McCarron's going to act like a backup.
Yeah.
He's got a reality special to focus on right now. But, so I think when it comes to that, for Johnny Football, for an owner or anybody involved in the organization to say act like a backup, I'm sorry, what are you doing? That is poor management. I don't want Johnny Football to act. I don't want anybody on this team acting like a backup if there's not someone established over them. Act like you're the starter and go out there, win the job.
Well, I feel like
backups don't win jobs.
Well, to me, it sounded like what Jimmy Haslam was trying to tell Johnny Football was be more humbling. But he went at it the wrong way by saying act like a backup. Because like you said, you want to see that. Like, let's look at his text, the hurry up and draft me because I want to wreck this league together. That's what you want to see out of your starter.
Yeah.
You want to see that guy who's going to be like, hey, you know what? I want to do great in this football league, and you know what? I want to do it with you, babe.
I want some of that Tom Brady attitude of, I won't even let the backup take a rep because it's my job, my spot.
And to me, it's like, I think Haslam was just trying to be like, hey, be more humbling. You will get your time.
Yeah,
do not worry.
He probably wants him to be humble, but that's totally the wrong way to go about it. And I completely understand. You could sit him aside and go, here's the thing. We are a classy organization. We're going to tone down the whole media circus. We don't want anything to do with that. We want you on this team. We like you on this team.
Like he said to the season ticket holders, this is Cleveland, not Hollywood.
Exactly. And that would be a fine thing to sit down Johnny Manziel and tell him that. And as I see, Ricky's doing the little money symbol a little bit, and tell Johnny, stop doing that. Slap his hand.
See, you know what? I don't mind it, but I wouldn't do it as much. I would only, if you're going to do it as a touchdown celebration, because to be honest, that's Johnny's thing.
I want to see him do it every single down. Throws an interception.
Instead of hashtag Tebowing, we'll have hashtag Manzeling, where he's doing the money signs.
Oh, I hope that somebody doesn't start that.
But I mean, I'm looking at right now. Haslam said Hoyer's our starter, and the biggest thing that sits with me is Hoyer got his first start last year with the Browns, but he only played 3 games.
Yeah, I mean,
only played 3 games. Before that, he was Arizona and New England. Obviously, when he's with New England, he was Brady's backup, or Brady's bitch.
And in your situation, your eyes, Ricky, he's the future because that's what you think for Garoppolo. But Hoyer, Hoyer's future is not so bright maybe because he's got Johnny Football sitting behind him. But yeah, I mean, he plays a little bit. He plays pretty well. Nothing to be absolutely crazy and thrilled about. Gets injured in this annual Sadness Bowl, and then that's it. The whole season goes downhill. Things were looking uphill for a little bit. Now it's done. So I understand having optimism. And even before the draft, I was saying I'm okay with Cleveland not drafting a single quarterback. Let Hoyer have a full year. Let's find out what happens. But that's not how the cards played out. What happened was you got a quarterback in the first round. This guy deserves every single chance to try and win that job. And don't tell him to be a backup. Because if you tell him to be a backup, you're telling him, I don't want you to start. And that might not be, what the meaning behind the words are, but that's what's coming across. And for me, if my coach or my GM or whoever is saying, hey, act like a backup, I'm going to say, screw you.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the whole thing right now is if I'm Hoyer, the heat under my seat is just on fire right now. I'm a little nervous because, I mean, you're in a city and you're like, okay, I'm the starter, but you got a proven, and I'm going to say a proven kid behind you who could take your spot at any moment.
Sure. And I think another thing with it, with the, you tell the guy, if you were to be like, hey, Johnny, you remember when you were redshirted in college? That's what we're going to do for a year. No matter what happens, you are not starting this year. That's one thing. And if you want to come across and say that, that's fine. But I think right now we had this weird, we don't really understand how to feel about these things right now, where it's like, Johnny, act like a backup. But if you do win the job, that's another thing. Because it's kind of just saying, we'll take, we're okay with saying, yeah, we don't really care about you. But if you start winning games, we're all in love with Johnny Football. So I think if you're going to say, make a decision now. Either let him start and tell him, go ahead and act like a starter. Go ahead and win that job. Or tell him, you're not playing this year.
Well, and I'm going back right now, and I'm doing a little bit of research. Let's look at the 3 2, because one of them was Johnny Manziel, drafted in the first round this year. Blake Bortles, Teddy Bridgewater.
Both starting.
Those guys are going to start.
Yep.
Last season, the only quarterback drafted in the first round of the 2013 NFL Draft, E.J. Manuel. Starter. 2012, Andrew Luck. Starter. Robert Griffin III. Starter. Ryan Tannehill. Starter. Brandon Weeden. Starter. Those are 3 of the past drafts. You're a first-round pick, and you're a quarterback. Starter.
Exactly. I mean, it's unfortunate, there's the big rhetoric right now of like, hey, what's better? Is it better to sit and watch for a little bit, or is it better to just go out there and get it done?
Andrew Luck didn't need to. But Andrew
Neither
Luck...
did RG3.
Yeah, and I'm going just because of Andrew Luck, because RG3 I don't think fits this mold. Andrew Luck was one of those players. He was a rare commodity of he was ready for the pros.
Oh, definitely.
He was ready for the pros.
RG3 was ready for the pros, too. He just got hurt.
Yeah,
and
but I mean, like, with Andrew
since.
Luck, he was ready for that pro-style quarterback that we hear about and that teams want.
Definitely. And, I mean, you have other guys, Russell Wilson even starts his first year.
Mm-hmm.
He goes out and, hey, he just won a Super Bowl.
Well, I'm just looking at 2000.
I get what you're doing.
Even 2011, Cam Newton, starter. Jake Locker, starter. Blaine Gabbert, starter. Christian Ponder, starter.
Yep, exactly. And the funny thing is, not many of those guys are working out too well.
Yeah.
But besides, obviously, Cam. But yeah, there's it's just an interesting thing with like should we let guys start? But I think in a situation like Cleveland, Johnny Football's not getting anything done on that bench.
Mm-hmm.
Hoyer's not anyone he's really going to learn from. I don't even honestly think Kyle Shanahan's anything he's really going to learn from.
Well, and the thing that kind of irked me a little bit when I went back, did the research, you mentioned him. Kyle Shanahan is now with Cleveland. Kyle Shanahan recently had to work with a mobile quarterback in RG3 when he was with Washington with his papa. And did that work out so well? Did he like working with RG3? No. Most of that was because of just RG3, the personality.
But I think part of that is also Daddy told me not to like this guy.
Well, not that too, but how much of it was Kyle Shanahan not... I feel like the mobile quarterback doesn't work with Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan is a weird... he's one of those guys who has like weird plays. That's what he likes. He likes those weird things. So mobile quarterback should be exactly what he likes. That's what you would think.
You would think.
But I think the RG3 thing was just, Daddy told me not to like you, so I don't like you.
Well, and I'm even looking at kind of because in this conversation with Johnny Manziel, bringing back Hoyer, the 3 games that he played last season, where he didn't play week 1, week 2, comes in week 3, throws for 321 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 INTs. Browns beat the Vikings. Week after that, gets the start in week 4 against the Bengals. 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. QB rating of 103.9, 17-6 win over the Bengals. Then in that third game that he played, the Thursday night game against Buffalo, you call it
That's the annual Sadness Bowl.
The Sadness Bowl. Got injured early. Cleveland, however, still won the game, but he only threw for 4 passes in the game before getting injured.
Yeah, and it's just, we can't tell much from that. Maybe he's a guy who's going to get injured in 3 games again.
And
Maybe he's going to play the whole season.
And how many games did the Browns win without him? 1.
Yeah.
1.
And it's a thing though for the Browns. Yeah, Hoyer won you some games, but you can't really know how it would have gone throughout an entire season. With that being said, if they want Hoyer to start, I'm all for that. If you want Hoyer to start and you want a redshirt Johnny Manziel, that is fine. You just need to go out there and do it now.
And to be honest, different system, different head coach. That was with the Chud.
Yeah,
before
definitely.
he got fired after 1 season.
Poor Chud.
And that's the one thing where I look at Mike Pettin as the head coach, and I go, okay, well, if you're not 100%, because right now, to go back to that ESPN article where it said Johnny Football was like, he sent a text to Loggins, the QB coach, saying that he wants to win and hurry up and draft me and all that. Well, if Pettin goes ahead and signs off his name to this quarterback, like, okay, you're starting week 1, if it's not a success, I could see the Browns being like, bye-bye. It's not work. Because the Browns, if they did it once, they'll do it again. Because if it's not going to work this year, we'll find a new guy until it works. And that's a terrible way to go.
There's a reason.
That's how I see the Browns doing
There's a reason why nobody wanted to coach the Cleveland Browns. Because nobody thought they could keep that job. Everyone was scared for their security. So, it's an interesting situation where it's going to be... I think what comes out of this, obviously there's kind of a rift starting already within this organization. Do we just get rid of the quarterback's coach, which is the easy move? Just get rid of him. You can have Johnny Football still. Get somebody who's going to, be more in line with the coach. Or does Johnny Football become successful and that kind of puts a weird thing going on up top?
Well, I want to read you 2 sentences from, they're the opening 2 sentences of an article written on ESPN by our favorite ESPN analyst,
He's
Skip Bayless. He said, and I quote, "Before the NFL draft, I wrote that the Houston Texans would forever regret if they didn't take a legendary Texan nicknamed Johnny Football with the number 1 overall pick. Now I'm beginning to wonder whether I will forever regret the Cleveland Browns taking Johnny Manziel with the 22nd pick."
Yeah, it's... I don't know for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it's a good situation had Josh Gordon still been, available to play. It's a great situation. That's a dynamic offense with a good defense. That defense is still solid. They're going to do well. The AFC North is not that great. Everybody's kind of, on an uptick of trying to reset, except for maybe the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a guy like Johnny Football out there. I think he can get stuff done. I think of the teams that needed a quarterback, like Jacksonville, not including the Minnesota Vikings, but Jacksonville, Oakland, and Cleveland, this was the best spot for him because it had the most to offer him. However, one of the big weapons is gone now, but you still have Cameron out there, so that's going to help out quite a bit.
Well, and one of the things I'm thinking about now, and kind of to throw out something in a TV show that I was watching on Netflix this week, one of the lines throughout the entire first season was, it's easier to look at things and be like, oh, okay, we should have done that in hindsight. And looking at the 2014 NFL draft that just happened with the Josh Gordon suspension, you kind of look at it and go, okay, was it smart for Cleveland to trade back, basically give the Bills Sammy Watkins? Watkins could have been with the Browns. You still could have done the trade up.
They knew that Josh Gordon was suspended before the draft.
Well, see, and that's another thing. Yet again, in hindsight, was it ill-advised to give Sammy Watkins to the Bills?
But no, they gave him to the Bills knowing that Josh Gordon was suspended.
And I'm looking at this like, was it now a bad mistake to give Sammy Watkins to the Bills? You could still get Johnny Manziel instead of getting Gilbert early on. Then you have Manziel and Watkins. Instead of Josh Gordon's gone, this week you sign Miles Austin and Earl Bennett, who to me, I would dish those guys and take Sammy Watkins in a heartbeat.
I mean, maybe, but I guess we don't really know how it's going to pan out. You can't really know these things about the draft yet.
And it all depends. And the only reason why we don't know depends on who they get with that Bills pick next year.
Sure. And I don't think that Sammy Watkins plus Johnny Football would actually be a cool combination. Because what does Watkins do?
Take the ball deep.
Well, he also gets a lot of screens.
Yeah, he's a playmaker.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing. He's going to get that screen, and he's going to make things happen. So if you got a quarterback who can also be dangerous with his legs, and then a guy who can just dink and dump, and then he will make you miss. That's a cool dynamic. Of course, you probably weren't going to get both those guys. Now, with that being said, though, it's an interesting thing going out with E.J. Manuel, who's also a mobile quarterback up in Buffalo. But at the same time, there are some questions. We all are kind of, really saying, and I'm one of them, Watkins was the best wide receiver in the draft. We all love him. But if he's not on a team that really is going to play to those strengths of just get the ball in his hand, let him run. Do some like Randall Cobb in Green Bay type of scenarios, it might not be that successful. Maybe Cleveland saw that and said, yeah, but we don't want that. We don't want a guy who's just going to do little screen passes.
The only other receiver that I'm going to say in the top 5 wide receivers that would have been a better fit to put with Johnny Manziel would be Mike Evans. But there was no way at number 4. Let's say the Browns weren't going to trade the pick to Buffalo. There's no way that you take Mike Evans over Sammy Watkins. If you're going to go wide receiver, that is.
You could. Why not?
You could, but there's no way just because if you're going with the best available at that position, you're going to go Sammy.
But if it's best available, but if it's not best available on your board.
But at the same time, like I said not even a few minutes ago, we're looking in hindsight. At the time this pick is made, Browns don't have Manziel.
Yeah, definitely. And he probably wasn't really that big of a part of the plan.
No,
they really doubted they were going to get him.
Well, it's just how everything fell out because once Cleveland doesn't take him, everyone's like, well, is Minnesota going to take him? No. I knew that Minnesota wasn't going to take Manziel because Zimmer hates
as much as
Manziel.
It broke your heart.
Well, I would have liked to see Manziel in a Vikings uniform. I want Johnny Manziel to succeed. I really do. I like Johnny football. I like the money sign. I like everything that he now brings to the table. Now that he's
Johnny
in the pros.
Football's glad he's not on the Vikings, and I'll tell you why. Because Jared Allen, Lamar Houston, Dominican Sue,
Julius Peppers,
he was going to get killed.
Yeah. Well, and that's once the Vikings took Anthony Barr, it's like, okay, are the Titans going to go quarterback? Titans don't go quarterback. And then it's like, wait a second. The next team that was going to think about Manziel at 16 with Dallas. Jerry Jones doesn't sign.
They weren't really thinking about it.
But that's what the media was saying. Jerry Jones
They're not that dumb.
Jerry Jones doesn't sign off on it, and then it's like, okay, where are we right now? And that's when, boom, Cleveland went up to get Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, but it's an interesting situation right now with this. I think the big question is, do you start him? Obviously he's going to be competing for that spot.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see a way that Johnny Football shouldn't be starting week 1. And the reason why is because he is such a dynamic player that preseason, he's going to outperform Hoyer. It's going to happen. He's going to do so well. You're going to have fans being like, hey, we drafted this guy. You drafted Braden Whedon round 1 and you let him start. Pick 22 once again. You're not going to let this guy start?
That's the thing that I feel like, and I didn't think about this until I heard this comparison made, and it was after the fact that Cleveland sold 1,500 season tickets the day after drafting Manziel, is if Cleveland starts Hoyer week 1, I believe, and I am going along with this comparison that I heard, I believe I heard it somewhere on ESPN or somewhere like that, where if Manziel doesn't start week 1, you will get the Cleveland fans that bark and bark and bark, no pun intended, about starting Manziel a la Denver fans with Tim Tebow.
Well, you're going to have people out there in Manziel uniforms.
But it's going to be as...
No one's going to have a Hoyer
I'm
uniform.
saying about the fan response to start Tebow.
Yeah, I got you.
Or start Manziel is going to be so big that it is going to be like, whoa, are we in Denver when Tim Tebow was there?
Yeah, but exactly what I'm saying. You're going to have people out there with Manziel jerseys.
Yep.
People will be there. The first...
Maybe a sprinkling of Ben Tate jerseys.
The first interception that Hoyer throws, if he is starting week 1...
Manziel.
Exactly.
Or how much of the money sign, just the money sign from the stands, just all the fans.
And the thing we got to remember about Cleveland, it's sad in Cleveland. These fans have been put through so much.
Well, not just that.
They want somebody to save
have LeBron leaves. You have the...
You had the
Kyrie,
Cleveland Browns leave, Ricky.
Well,
they left.
You have the Browns leave. You have Kyrie Irving and the Cavaliers that have just been bad. You have the Indians who have been a disappointment of late.
Forever.
You have, and for a Bulls fan, I love saying it, the shot on Elo. You're on the wrong end of the shot on Elo. It's not a good thing to be a Cleveland sports fan most of the time.
No. Would you take your children to Cleveland?
I went to Cleveland once. We went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I did too, actually.
That was nice. I like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then I remember going to my dad, hey, Dad, what's that? And he goes, oh, that's where the Browns play.
And I remember going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and going, okay, can we leave now? Are we good? And then we left Cleveland.
But, I mean, I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns offense and looking not at the quarterback. Running back Ben Tate's probably going to start the pickup in free agency. Sure. Here's your wide receivers. Greg Little, Hawkins, Cooper, Benjamin, Miles Austin, Earl Bennett.
Yeah.
Those are your receivers.
And Miles Austin, if he can stay healthy, that's a good pickup. He's probably not going to stay healthy. Earl Bennett, he's a very reliable receiver. He's nothing special, but he's very nice and reliable. He will catch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what you want. Greg Little probably will not catch the ball. He likes to let them go through his hands. But, he's there as well. I mean, I would say Austin's probably your number 1. Bennett's probably your number 2.
You think Austin's number 1?
Who else? And then you have Greg Little number 3. That's what it's got to be. Of course, you got a big tight end there you can throw to, and I think he's going to get a lot of attention, especially with a young quarterback like Manziel who gets himself into trouble a lot. I think he will definitely be very valuable to that team.
See, and that was one of the big things, and I think that as the season goes on, we're going to hear this question more and more and more. Why didn't Cleveland draft a wide receiver in the draft? I really feel like midway through the season, it's going to be like, oh, hey, we suck. We could have won that game. We could have won this game if Manziel had someone to throw to.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It definitely is. But at the same time, a nice thing about having a mobile quarterback, he can get it done with his legs.
Well, he can run into his offensive lineman, catch the ball, spin around, chuck it, football, touchdown.
Exactly. You know who would be nice with Johnny Manziel? Benjamin. That would have been a great pickup.
Calvin Benjamin? Yeah, buddy.
Big guy who is used to saving his quarterback in a very important situation.
Yeah, and I mean, something that we haven't touched upon, and I want to go more into detail with it now. Miles Austin, Earl Bennett, they get signed this past week to join the Browns receiving corps. You've already mentioned that you think Austin, you would put him, boom, number one on the depth chart.
Yep.
Are these two really going to be able to help the Browns succeed?
Well, for a while, and this is coming from a Chicago Bear fan, we had Johnny Knox going on too, back before his back was destroyed. But Earl Bennett was the guy. Jay Cutler pretty much threw to Earl Bennett at all times. He is a reliable guy. In Chicago, we used to call him Mr. Reliable. He will catch the ball. He might get you a couple yards. That's what Earl Bennett does. He catches the ball, gets you a few yards, and that's it. Nothing special, nothing flashy. He's not going up the field. He's just going to catch that ball and get that first down, or get you close enough to that first down. Miles Austin's the guy who will probably demand some attention until he gets hurt, which is probably going to happen. And then, Greg Little doesn't really demand much attention. If you do throw him the ball, is he going to catch it? So, for Cleveland, I think you just kind of have to hope that somebody steps up. Because right now you got two guys, pretty much. And I say two guys because, hey, maybe Austin gets hurt. Earl Bennett isn't always the healthiest either. So, it's a very interesting situation.
I feel like when I saw those two names, the first thing that I thought about Miles Austin, oh, great, you got a guy who can't stay on the football field. Him and Hoyer will be on the sideline together. Then I saw Earl Bennett, and I'm like, he's still in the league?
Yeah. Well, the thing for Earl Bennett was a staple of the Chicago Bears offense. He just got overshadowed by Brandon Marshall,
and
by
then
Martellus Bennett,
and then Alshon
Jeffrey. Exactly. There was just no use for Earl Bennett anymore, which is unfortunate because the Vanderbilt connection between Jay and Bennett was so strong. But there was just no need to have him on the team really anymore. And Chicago just loves tall receivers nowadays. So, I think he'll be a very solid part of Cleveland. I just don't think he's never going to be a guy who really does that much. He's a very good complement. And he's reliable. That's pretty much all I can say about him. I do want to ask you one thing, though.
Go ahead.
Just going back to Johnny Football a little bit. It makes me think of quarterbacks that, are so great for the city that did not draft them. Drew Brees, John Elway, these type of guys. Do we think that Johnny Football is going to be another one of these guys who is great somewhere else?
No. I think Johnny Football is either going to be good or not good, but he's going to either be great with Cleveland or he's going to be like Tim Tebow. Just either good in the league or just not even like Tim Tebow. He'll be a permanent backup. That's what I could see Johnny. If Johnny Football isn't going to start, he's a permanent backup. And you're probably sitting there going, well, duh. But Johnny Football, I don't see him not being successful in Cleveland and going somewhere else and being successful. This is his shot. Johnny Cleveland, that's his name.
The only thing that concerns me is if he's not really given a good chance. I think if maybe Hoyer does a good job and the upper management is saying, yeah, we really didn't want this guy anyways. So let's just let him sit around. Maybe trade him. There's
part of me that just feels like there's a reason why they're making shirts called Johnny Cleveland.
Well, because to be fair, if he went to Jacksonville, there'd be Johnny Jacksonville.
Or Johnny Florida.
Or Johnny Florida, Johnny Houston, Johnny Texas, Johnny San Diego.
I don't know. Part of me feels like Johnny Football, if he's not successful, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse right here saying it, if he's not successful in Cleveland, he's not going to be successful anywhere else. And one of the things I want to kind of go to is I completely forgot about this until just now looking at ESPN. There's rumors, a little talk going around that the Houston Texans should shop Andre Johnson. Before I get to teams that might be a good fit if he is traded, should Houston think about trading Johnson? He does have a cap penalty that's gonna hit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a big contract is really what it comes down to. A lot of money going there, and I think he's an older guy as well. So I think if you're the Houston Texans, you're sitting there thinking, are we winning a Super Bowl this year? Are we gonna win one next year? What about in 2 years? Okay, maybe we should trade him. Because if you're not going to win in this, I'm not saying he's going to be out of the league in 3 years, but pretty soon he's not going to be, the number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. So especially if injury problems become a nagging issue, why not trade him if it's there? If it's available, you can go ahead and trade him. Because that offense is kind of restarting anyways, and they're different from the Kubiak offense, but the Kubiak offense essentially was just kind of, let's slowly move up until you fall asleep, and then we'll put it over.
And I'm looking right now it's an article on fansided.com, and the headline just says, the 3 best destinations for Andre Johnson. I'm going to run these 3 destinations by you, Mark. You tell me if it'd be a good fit. First, if it's a good fit. 2, should Houston pull the trigger? Team number 1, your favorite, claw up Carolina Panthers.
Oh, they need a receiver so badly. Well, they got a tall guy. They got someone tall. So why not give Cam another tall person to throw to? I think it's good. I think it's a good trade. Do I think? I mean, it depends really what.
And this is all if it materializes. Yeah, Houston. This is if Houston's like, okay, we're going to trade him away.
And it's also, what is Carolina going to give to Houston?
Yeah.
We don't know those things yet, but I think.
I mean, it's a great spot for Carolina would be if.
They would be thrilled.
If Houston came out and said, yeah, we're going to trade him, of course Carolina is going to be one of the top suitors.
You lose Steve Smith, and then you get Johnson, and then you get your nice young guy to get everybody excited, sell some jerseys. That's pretty great.
Another team that is in this article, the New England Patriots.
Well, they like to collect as much as they possibly can. I don't think it's that. I don't think they need it. I don't think the Patriots need it because they got Tom Brady and he'll get it done with whoever.
And the last team, the team we've been talking about all podcast, saving the best to last to wrap it in, Johnny Cleveland football.
Yeah.
Should Cleveland push the button and give Manziel Andre Johnson to throw to?
You mean give Hoyer because Manziel's too busy acting like a backup.
No, I'm saying Manziel's going to start. There's no way Manziel doesn't start. You'd be stupid.
Now, they got 2 first-round picks next year.
Trade one of them away?
If they need to. Johnson should not get a first. You shouldn't give a first round for him just because he's kind of old. It's kind of a waste. But I mean, they have what it takes to get it done.
Well, and this is, of course, like we're going to say, this is if Andre Johnson and Houston.
I don't see him leaving, though.
If they were like, okay, we're going to trade you, I think out of those 3 teams listed in this article on fansided.com, I feel like the order should go Cleveland, Carolina, New England, out of those 3. Because, I mean, the biggest thing with New England, you say they don't need a wide receiver. To me, the only reason why they think of this is 2 reasons. First off, what did they do when they had a guy like Randy Moss for Tom Brady to throw to? Oh, yeah, that's right. They only lost 1 game. Of course, it was in the Super Bowl, but they only lost 1 game.
Doesn't count if you ain't got that ring.
Second off, you don't have Aaron Hernandez, and Gronkowski has proven that he can't stay healthy an entire season. Yes, I know Andre Johnson's not a tight end, but you lose Gronkowski, that's losing a receiver for Brady to throw to. If you go and get Johnson, Brady still has a reliable number 1, a reliable guy to even in late game situations to say he's my guy.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Tom Brady is Tom Brady's number one. That's all that matters
True.
out there. But yeah,
but he's no Aaron Rodgers or Drew. Drew Brees is a.
I mean, he has more Super Bowl rings than the
Drew
other guys.
Brees is the perfect example of, like, for example, I'm an Illinois guy. 2 of our receivers are getting a tryout. I'm like, great. If they make the team, they don't need to be big names because Brees will just throw it to anybody and make them look good.
But I mean, Tom Brady was doing that before Drew Brees was.
Yeah, but Tom Brady actually had big name wide receivers.
Sure, but he's also made big name wide receivers.
True.
I mean, you're completely right about
Wes Welker. Wes Welker wouldn't have been anything without Tom Brady.
Wes Welker has had the great privilege of playing with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. So
yeah,
there's that. I would have loved to see him go play with, Jake Locker. That'd be fun. But that would never happen. But yeah, I think I don't know. It's interesting in this situation. Should they do it? Should the Texans do it? Probably not. Although I'm sure they could get something quality out of it. I just don't think for right now the Texans, you guys aren't going to be going to the Super Bowl in the next couple of years, probably.
Let me put it this way.
So kind of get what you can.
Let me ask you this question. Odds Andre Johnson is traded before the trade deadline.
I really don't think it's going to happen. I would say, I'll give you a percentage. I'll give you 20%.
I'm going to say 40. At the trade deadline, right now, 40% chance. Because I don't think Houston's going to do that good this season.
I mean, if they're doing really bad, they've only won 1 game or something, yeah, maybe.
I don't think they're going to do that good. I really do. I don't think this is a bounce-back season.
Well, I mean,
Houston Texans.
I don't know who the quarterback is. Fitzpatrick's not going to throw anything but interceptions.
Yeah.
They're used to that. So what's Tom Savage going to do?
It's going to be Tom Savage's job.
Case Keenum, who's it going to be? Case Keenum, he got people excited, and then they remembered, oh, he's not that good.
Well, and to wrap up the show, we're going to dive back into something we haven't dived into in quite a while, college football.
Well, we did just talk about the draft.
Well, true.
Well,
it's pros in college. This is just college football. And the biggest news, of course it's big news because it's around the USC Trojans, their tailback. A tailback coming out of high school that we had the privilege of watching or knowing about who he was because he played at Joliet Catholic, Ty Isaac. 5,000 rushing yards in high school.
Crazy.
Big name. He says, hey, you know what? Bye-bye. I'm leaving because I want to transfer to a Big Ten school closer to my mama.
Yep, he wants to say hi to mommy. He misses that home cooking. I don't blame him. But yeah, it's very interesting, and I know you're excited. You're a big
Well, the only reason
Illinois
I'm excited is because even though there's not a definitive list, the schools that are coming out are, of course, Illinois, Northwestern, Michigan, and Notre Dame. Those are the big 4 that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, I could see Notre Dame. If you're outside of Chicago, you might not be aware of this, but even though Notre Dame is not an Illinois school, the Chicagoland area has basically adopted Notre Dame as its school. That's why Northwestern makes a big deal about being the Chicago Big Ten team, because they're like, hey, Notre Dame is not one of your teams.
Notre
guys.
Dame's not even in the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, they make a big deal about the big team. I mean, the independents make a big deal, even more so than the Big Ten, which isn't that special.
Yeah.
But yeah, they make a big deal about being the school for them because they even like to ignore DePaul. Forget about DePaul, guys.
Well,
when it comes to basketball
does
season.
DePaul
Forget
even
about
have
them.
a football team? They're just basketball.
No, they're
right?
a basketball school.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, they Northwestern still pretends like they play basketball too.
Yeah, and they still pretend that they play football.
Yeah, Illinois also pretends they play basketball.
Ooh, that hurts.
But,
John Gross is doing a good job, but I mean, one of the things that, and there's even a school I left out, Wisconsin's even in the mix.
Sure, I honestly I'm not basing this off of that much, but I just kind of, things that sound right to me would be Notre Dame. Maybe a school like Michigan, because I think of this kid's going for somewhere here he's going to win.
Yeah,
he wants to win. I don't see him winning with Northwestern. I don't see him winning with Illinois.
This is me. When I saw in an article that he wants to be close to his ailing mother, right away, Michigan's gone. Because you're in Ann Arbor, mom's in Joliet. If something happens to mom, you can, it's an easier commute to get from Ann Arbor to Joliet than it is, LA to Illinois. But that's still a far drive.
I mean,
Unless
2 hours to Champaign's pretty far too, though.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, even like the schools I'm looking at, the top 3 right now that I think have the best shot at getting him because of location is obviously Illinois and Northwestern because they're in Illinois.
Northwestern is closer,
and Notre Dame because Notre Dame is not that far from Chicago.
Basically, if we're going purely off of location, Northwestern wins. Then Notre Dame is probably just a tiny bit closer than the University of Illinois. So, I mean, there is that. I just think that the University of Illinois is not in any place to win anything very big right now.
And the big thing about Illinois, and I'm just going to say this right now, do I think we're going to win a bowl this year? No. But the big question mark is whether or not new quarterback Wes Lunt, who was successful with the Oklahoma State Cowboys, can he start getting this program in a winning direction? Because if you look at just last season or the past few seasons, Illinois, not so stellar. Northwestern didn't have that stellar of a season last year.
And you guys all laughed at me when I said NIU was going to be better at Northwestern.
Yeah. Michigan, even though they did better than both of them, not amazing.
You know who the school he should go to
Notre Dame and Wisconsin are the best. You're going to say Ohio State.
Well, I would like to see him at Ohio State. If you're going to go to the Big Ten, go to the Big Ten school. But I was going to say NIU. Just as a homer.
NIU?
Just go to NIU.
Why?
Jordan Lynch left. He's going to be a good old running back for the Chicago Bears. You want to be a running back for the Chicago Bears too? Go play at NIU.
No, that's not. I feel like if he's going just off of success, the 2 teams, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, those are the teams that he goes for. If he's going for location, Illinois, Northwestern, Notre Dame.
I think you're going success. I'm putting Michigan right up there.
More so than Wisconsin. Wisconsin's been more successful.
They have been more successful.
Michigan.
Wisconsin constantly loses pieces, though.
True.
So, I mean...
And then you have the tradition, though, of Notre Dame.
Which is really... When you're a younger guy looking at colleges, tradition's a really hard thing to pass up. It really is. You want to be one of the brotherhood, of a school like Notre Dame. For me, though, I think about Notre Dame. What's the first thing I think of? Getting their asses kicked in the BCS National Championship. And that's a little embarrassing. Of course, he comes from USC right now, so that's not any less embarrassing. To me, I understand we're in Big Ten territory here, but if I'm a college recruit, I don't want to be in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. There's nothing, unless I'm in Ohio State, there's nothing about the Big Ten that gets me that excited.
Yeah, and that's why the Big Ten, I'm not even going to get into it, how they want to move to the East, but we're going to end the podcast. Simple question. Where will Ty Isaac end up? Here's your choices. Illinois, Michigan, Northwestern, Notre Dame, or Wisconsin.
I'm going to go ahead. I think the close runner-up is Northwestern. It's close. It's in Illinois. It's a good academic school that makes everybody back at home pretty happy. And honestly, I was making fun of them not being as good as NIU, but they were on an uptick. They were doing well. They got a good coach up there.
They did beat Illinois, even though they had a crappy season. Yep.
But it's they got a good coach. It's definitely a good program. But you can't pass up the opportunity to play for the Fighting Irish, especially Joliet is only about 45 minutes away from Chicago, the heart of Chicago. So it's pretty hard to pass up that Chicagoland Notre Dame bias.
You're gonna say that it's the homer in me saying it, but I'm picking Illinois. The reason why is I feel like Illinois sports has something to look forward to with Wes Lunt taking the helm. Well, he hasn't won the job yet, but there's a pretty good chance that he's the starter this upcoming season. Illinois is going to be a little bit better than they were last year, and it wouldn't surprise me if Wes Lunt gave a little phone call to Ty Isaac and was like, hey, we're going to have some special things over here. Come join me. Our state, our team.
He's going to say, hey, I know we're not Alabama. I can't offer you a car, but, at least I can hand you the ball every now and then.
Because the one thing I will say, with recruiting, especially with Illinois and Northwestern, should do this too for basketball being in Chicago. I always think of the Schnellenberger Miami team, where in the 80s they took Miami roped it off and said, the state of Miami, that's where we're going to recruit. And I feel like Ty Isaac, an Illinois recruit, did great in high school. It's a big name. Get it, even Northwestern, you get him to your school because people who even go to the school right now might be like, oh, I went to school with him. I'm excited.
Definitely. Yeah, and I mean, you say the motto, the motto of the Fighting Illini there.
Our state, our team.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's tough to pass up. But, Chicago did adopt Notre Dame, essentially, as their team. So, and you win those games, you're on a big national stage with the Fighting Irish. You're not going to get that with Northwestern or the Fighting Illini.
And you get Brian Kelly.
Huge asset.
Well, that's going to do it this week for the Onside Kick. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, that like button. Hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Ricky Widmer. Mark is at with 2 E's, Mark Weber. And leave your comments down below. We love talking to you guys about the football news that we bring to you each and every week. And as always, have a good day, everybody.